Hey Tony, it's Friday, and first off, to answer your question of the week, there are a couple times where I've had a really slow day at work, but I think the absolute worst was it was at least the worst at Ruben and Rothman was it was one of my first couple weeks when I started there, and we were having all sorts of computer issues. Well, on this one day in particular, our entire system just shut down completely, making it so none of us could do any work. We just were sitting around waiting for everything to start working again. So I think that was probably the most boring day because we couldn't do anything. So this week was just more of the same. Quarantine, 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 and more quarantine. But otherwise, I mean, it's not much has changed for several months now, which is it's getting to me. I'm aware it's getting to me. Today was not a super great day. It was really warm. It was really warm and humid out, but it also there was so much stuff we had to do around the apartment that it wasn't a good way to go out and actually do anything. So it was just a long, miserable day. But it's much cooler now. I'm actually sitting in the back room with the AC on, but it was okay. I mean, it was a day, but all the days are just kind of running together. I don't actually have too much to talk about this week because not much really happened. I didn't accomplish any big tasks or anything like that. I guess the biggest task I finished this week was I watched season 1. I finished season 1 of Deadwood, which was really good. I definitely recommend it. If you like westerns, it's something you'll enjoy. I enjoy westerns. They're not my favorite genre, but I still really enjoy them. And I love how much westerns have inspired pop culture as a whole. Like Star Wars, probably my favorite movie series, is at its core a space western. Firefly, which is a show I really enjoy, is also at its core a space western, and westerns are one of the first big, in my opinion, one of the first true American genres, which is kind of funny insofar as some of the most popular westerns that we know of today were filmed in Italy and were called spaghetti westerns. Now, the reason why they were called spaghetti westerns is because they were cheaply made, cheaply produced, and didn't pay the cast much. So it was they were considered to be cheap like pasta, and so it became known as spaghetti westerns. That's actually where actors like Clint Eastwood really made his bones. Were in a lot of those. In fact, Rango, which you and I saw years ago, is at its core a love letter to spaghetti westerns. But Deadwood itself it's really well done. It was a groundbreaking show when it came out in the early 2000s, and that's just not me saying it. It's considered to be one of the best, one of the greatest genres of its, or one of the greatest dramas of its type. And I have to wholeheartedly agree. It's remarkably well produced. All of the characters have. There's a lot of infighting, and there's a lot of different agendas that take place within the camp of Deadwood. And it's really well done. It's something I've really enjoyed watching. In fact, I don't know if you fully remember, Tony, but you and I were in Deadwood many, many moons ago when we took our. I want to say it was when we took the our Yellowstone trip. we stopped in Deadwood, and it was pretty cool. I can't remember if it was that trip or if it was one of our other Western trips where we stopped in Deadwood. It was Deadwood, South Dakota. It was a pretty cool place, nice and historic. Lots of famous lawmen and outlaws lived in the town at its heyday. It was a big gold camp, and it started the South Dakota Gold Rush, and it was the epicenter of that. And what Deadwood, the show, does, at least what the first season does, I haven't seen past the first season, so I can't say what it completely does, but it stays pretty true to history. It takes a lot of dramatic liberties, as you would expect from something of its like, but it takes place. The first season takes place when Deadwood starts out from a rough and tumble camp to when it's on the verge of becoming an actual settlement under the U.S. government, with mayors and sheriffs and all of that. So the characters themselves are all intriguing. In fact, the most intriguing character in the entire show is arguably the bad guy. He's he's not a good guy, but I'm not going to necessarily call him the villain. But he's really an anti-hero. I think would probably be the best way to say it. Al Swearingen, who is based off the real life, one of the big timers in the early history of the real life settlement. But he's one of the main characters, and his interactions with the camp are fascinating. But there's also another the other big character is Seth Bullock, who was one of the early sheriffs of Deadwood. Is also he was a town marshal for a long time, and he was actually best friends with Teddy Roosevelt, which is kind of a cool little fun fact for you there. But the way Deadwood portrays it is Seth Bullock is more your traditional hero, your traditional Western hero, whereas Al Swearingen is much more your villain, or at least an anti-hero at the best of times. But in a lot of their interactions, you actually kind of start to take Al's side, because Bullock is known to be hot-headed and also is known to get himself in trouble. And it's really a testament to the creators of the show and the directors and the writers to make it so Seth Bullock is not your go-to good guy who you're always rooting for. And it's a really well done show, and I really do recommend it. And ever since quarantine, nothing is really changing. It's given me a chance to kind of go back and watch a lot of shows that I hadn't watched in a long time. So Tony, my question for you is, how big a fan are you of Westerns? Tony, I'll see you on Wednesday. Later, bro.